the Books episode is here today, right now. We are about to get into it, and it's a different one than the other ones because this episode is focused on launching a new product. Sarah Resnick is the founder, CEO of a couple of brands, including one called Zali, that is launching a really cool new product with real possibility of making a very big impact on Sarah's business. And so Sarah reached out to me and said, hey, I've seen your Opening the Books episodes. What if we did one all around how to effectively launch a new product? And I love that idea. And so in this episode, we talk all about what does it look like to do a great product launch for a product that you are really excited about and think could really push the needle forward for your business. So we talk all about how to launch the product to returning customers, to new customers, the role that it will play in the ad account. We talk about email, SMS strategy, how do you build buzz and hype around it, and all of the different elements of doing a great product launch. If you are launching any products in your e-commerce business, and I suspect you are, you will like this episode a lot. Let's jump in. So, Sarah, tell people a little bit about who you are, what your businesses are, give people the intro and the context that you already gave me over email.
Great. So I'm Sarah. I started my company Just Yarn in 2017. We make yarn for weavers. If you don't know what weaving is, you might have seen like a big old loom somewhere. That's weaving. You put yarn on that loom and you can make fabric. People can weave tapestries, rugs, all sorts of things. So there's a huge market of people who do fiber crafts in the United States and around the world, and weaving is a niche part of that. So we have been making high quality weaving yarn for years. We also sell digital products. We make weaving patterns, and we have become well known in our community of weavers for providing high quality yarn and patterns. I just feel so lucky to have this job, to have been able to be able to work with the people that I do to make the products that we make. I have a wonderful small team that is creating, working with designers to create patterns and making our yarn. It's fun. It's hard. Every entrepreneur knows that these kinds of things are really hard too, but it's really special. And we launched coming up on like 5 or 6 months ago at this point, our new sister brand called Zali. So our idea with Zali is to open up the world of fiber crafts and making to a wider audience. So we make beginner fiber crafts for knitting, crochet, cross stitch, embroidery, friendship bracelets. We have new kits coming up, and our products are all designed for people ages 8+. We include video courses teaching people how to do things, and it's really just meant to bring the warmth and vibrancy and creativity of crafting into as many homes as possible. That's what we do. Happy to answer any and all questions.
Yeah, you said your business has been hard, but you're lucky to have it. So you didn't find the easy e-commerce business, you're telling me?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I think our path with Gist has actually been pretty different than most e-commerce companies in the sense that we did not build off of paid spend. That might be interesting to your audience. I started organically with, an Instagram account where I was posting daily about traveling the world and searching for yarn that I was going to buy and start selling soon, and built up a small following of people and a small email list that way, and kind of just like slowly grew from there. I was able to harness, in the days of like 10-cent clicks on Pinterest, I was able to build a couple thousand people into an email list that got us growing through, through like a lead magnet. Then have built organic traffic and SEO from there. And now the main driver of our business is our email list. I talk to our customers all the time, and people love our emails. Like I just hear all the time people advising other people to sign up for our email list. And I think that's just like a testament of when you really have product market fit and you have what people are looking for, that they want to open your emails and see what you're doing next. So that's how we've built with Gist. I tried Facebook ads for Gist over the years and they never worked. I kind of always assumed it was because we were too niche. Maybe it was just because I didn't know how to do it. But we didn't have acquisition that way. With Zali, we have a much bigger market that we are able to reach, and we are, trying Meta and trying other routes to reach a wider audience.
So I take it you yourself are a weaver, or at least were a weaver, maybe more of a business owner. I've never know how hobbies like that happen, but like that's how it happened. Yeah, you started weaving and then started making products for weavers.
Yes, totally. So I have been a fiber, I learned how to knit when I was 7 from a friend's grandmother, and then I kind of got into
Oh,
crocheting,
so cool.
sewing. Anyone who's a fiber artist has a similar story. I love weaving. It was always a hobby. I started my career as a community organizer, but I moved into small business being curious about domestic manufacturing and curious about employers making local jobs. I was working for a cut and sew factory for a little bit, and then I decided to move into my own e-commerce business and partnering with textile mills to make products for weavers. So that's how I
Yeah.
found my way. I didn't have any marketing or e-com background before I started. I love my products and my community,
Yeah.
so.
Well, yeah, that story fits my. I mean, there's now a subset of founders who I think are like marketers first. They kind of figure out the tactics and then they go find a product that fits, that they like enough, they're interested in it. I've come across almost no snake oil salesmen in e-commerce, like in D2C, people who don't really care at all about the product and are just trying to make a buck. I think those people might exist in like the affiliate world. I'm not really sure.
Mhm.
I haven't been around that world very much, but D2C e-com founders, like, so even people who come in from sort of a marketing, it's like if I started a brand, right? Like I'm not a product guy. I'm just not. I don't have the skill set. I'm not creative in the right ways and all that stuff. But so if I started a brand, it would be very much like that kind of thing, right? Where it's like I find a product that I like and something like that. But most that I come across are more like you, where they aren't marketers first, and they certainly aren't finance people first. They did not come in because they love thinking about like cash flow. They come in because they have a product and a brand and something that they love, and they have vision for how to take that to other people. And I love that because it's just like it comes through in people's brands so much, and it's one of those places where there's so much like real value and being contributed and added to the world and these sorts of things. Because I think about a situation like yours, and it's like, for the community of people, which you mentioned is niche, but like who are interested in weaving now, like there's somebody supplying good quality products, who cares a lot about it, who does it themselves, and who's thinking really hard about how to make it better for them, talking to customers all the time, creating emails that people love and love to pass along, etc. And one thing I'll flag right away is that I've been thinking a lot about this, actually, that for a long time I have believed that basically every business can and should run meta ads, and that there's a place for them. I'm just for ecom business, right? I just am finding a couple of cases now where I'm starting to think that maybe there's some spaces where they at least are a very, very small part of the strategy, if they're that at all. I mean, it's hard for me to imagine that they wouldn't be useful at all for brands, even for something as niche as weaving. But the idea of you saying like, I'm going to put my time and effort into other things that are probably more important in this space because I don't have background with meta ads and it's not the main driver of the business, is perfectly rational to me. It's not in most cases. In most cases that wouldn't be true, but in a niche community, in a niche interest like yours, I think I increasingly have the belief, and I actually just recorded a podcast and released it. See, at the time of this will go live, it's probably about a month old, but basically like categorizing different people's businesses and saying, here's how to think about your business if you're like this, or if you're like this, if you're like this, if your margin profile is this way, if your LTV profile is this way, if your TAM is this way, etc. And one of the subgroups that I sort of labeled is like the niche group, and it doesn't have to actually be that small. Like I just mean it's like a sub community of some kind. An example I gave there was like when I was with Kalo selling silicone wedding rings, right? That like we went really hard into CrossFit, and CrossFit is a perfect example of this kind of thing. It's a closed community. It's not that big. It's big-ish, but it's not that big. And the people are really interested. There's an influencer community related to it, and there's a charity community related to it, and there's events related to it, and people are working out together. And so it makes sense. And this is, I think, the way people interact with a lot of like hobbies or interests, whether it's fitness related or weaving or craft or whatever, So anyway, all that to say, I think with what you're explaining with Gist, like it really makes a lot of sense to me, which is where it makes sense to me that you would say, we're going to be a content driven thing. I'm going to talk to my customers a lot. Community is going to be important to us. We're going to think really hard about how to show up in the places where those people are, be really core there. And that's actually the thing that's amazing about that from a pure P&L perspective, is that creates margin expansion, because now you've you're not spending like so many e-commerce brands, 30% of your money, 50% of your money on ads. And that's, it's the Zuck tax that most brands are paying. And so, yeah, so I think there's a real opportunity. The business doesn't have to get that big to be really profitable in that case. And so it's really cool. So having said all that, Zollie is a slight different thing from there, right? Correct me if I'm wrong here, but like with this product that you're releasing, Zollie is an attempt to take on maybe a larger market opportunity than weaving. Is that do I have that right?
Yeah. And it's an attempt to take a larger market opportunity than weaving and to take people who are just curious about crafts. So they don't want to commit to buying a loom. This can be hundreds to thousands of dollars. They want to get a box that's like 60 or 70, less than $100 that's going to teach them everything they need to know and get them started on a new craft so they can see if they like it. So that's a much bigger potential audience because it's really anyone who thinks that they want something different in their life. We hear a lot from people, they want to stop scrolling. They want something that's going to calm their mind.
Interesting.
They want like moments to themselves, moments of creativity. People who, are mostly focused on their jobs and their kids, want something to themselves, and like crafting can be that moment. So that is the kind of market we're trying to tap into there. And yeah.
Cool. What are the core products for Zollie right now so people can know?
We have
the website is zollymakes.com, right?
Yes, it is. And we have a set of 5 beginner kits and courses. So each kit comes with a complete course, online video course that you can take asynchronously that will teach you that craft, and then all the materials that you need to make the product. So this is our homepage. And we're teaching these different skills. So each of our kits, we partner with different artists. Artists receive a royalty for every kit that we sell. They do the designing of the product. So we're really, an artist first company, and we're a yarn company. So we use really high quality natural fiber yarns in all of our kits. And we just recently launched a subscription, which you can see there, which is the Zali Fibercraft Academy. We're still we're working on figuring out the right way to prospect new customers for this. So I'm open to any feedback you have. But the idea here is that you sign up, and for 5 months, you get a new craft to your door that you get to learn.
That's really cool. I think that's really, really cool. Have you played with this as a gift much? Like, or seen people respond to it that way? Like, this seems like for $60 to get 5 months of new crafts for somebody who's interested in this, it feels like a really good gift opportunity.
That is what we are hoping for. We literally launched this last week, so we're still figuring our way through this.
All right, so we'll find out. Cool.
Yeah.
Really cool. Really, really cool. It's beautifully packaged too. I like it a lot.
Thank you. Yeah.
This is one of those funny situations where I get on with somebody and the brand is also like so far outside of my knowledge base in terms of interests that which I don't want to sound condescending. Like I think it's really cool. I love that. This is like I was saying about a second ago, like just like people who are interested in a thing, taking that and extending that to others is great. Like I love that. But I'm afraid to ask stupid questions right
now
because I just don't.
No. I think it'll help you coach me. I think the general thing that I have learned about the crafting customer is that they just love it. I don't know, that it just brings so much meaning to people's lives. And there are a lot of wonderful craft kit companies in our space, a lot of wonderful yarn companies, and it's just a pretty non-competitive business space, I would say. And yeah, that's where we are.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have friends who every time they are ever in my house hanging out, just doing whatever, if we're sitting and talking, they are crocheting something there. Like,
exactly.
they're just, there's always something in there. It is as strong of an addiction as anything I've seen people do. Like with I think crocheting in particular is this way, where people just carry their stuff around all the time. It's always struck me as like, and of course, that means by the end of the night, they've knit a sweater for somebody or whatever. It's just like, it's wild. They're just sort of constantly productive in these really cool ways. But obviously, productive isn't really the point per se. But yeah, it's really cool. I've been telling you about More Staffing for the better part of a year now. I've had a great partnership with my friends at More Staffing. I staff my business with talent from the Philippines from More Staffing. You should do the same thing. The value proposition is really, really clear. You can get incredible talent in your business, e-commerce business, agency business, whatever it is, from the Philippines, and not just at intro levels, not just virtual assistant levels of the business. I was talking just last night with Laura Guevara, the CEO of More Staffing, who was at my house for dinner from the Philippines in town. It was great. And she told me recently about one client that I had that had started working with More Staffing off of my ads, had hired a customer service rep, and now was hiring a director of marketing from the Philippines for their business. That is exactly right. By working with More Staffing, you find not just virtual assistant, intro level talent for your business, but like higher level, manager, director, even executive level talent to staff your e-commerce business and to bring real expertise. And the thing that really stuck out to me, actually, as I was talking with Laura last night and another member of their team who leads the supply chain side of their team, was just like the level of expertise these people have in areas of e-commerce businesses that they're just way smarter than most of the people that I've known around these certain areas of the business. And it's because there is incredible talent in the Philippines. And if you're thinking just about cheap, you are thinking about it wrong. It is about more than cheap, and you should be going and looking to add incredible talent. If you are a remote team already across every element of your e-commerce business from the Philippines, it will be cheaper than hiring that same talent in the US. Of course, that is part of the value proposition here as well, but it will also open up for you incredible talent all the way around. You can run a lean OpEx in your business, which is crucial to running a great D2C business, and at the same time, staff with incredible, hardworking, high quality, ethically awesome, great English-speaking talent. If you have not yet considered hiring from More Staffing and you are already a remote team, I don't know what you're doing. Go and do it. Go to morenow.co/AF, morenow.co/AF. The link is in the show notes as always to get a conversation going with them. They even have a 1-year guarantee. If your placement doesn't work out in your business for a year, they'll replace them for free. Go to morenow.co/AF and start working with More Staffing now. Let's jump over to this product you're releasing. Okay. So maybe I'll pull up the picture, because the picture that you sent me really helped me understand what this is.
And I also have it here so I can share.
Okay, great. You can show people. Good. Of course you do.
But you can pull up the picture.
Actually, I will pull. Yeah. I will. Okay. So start by just talking to people about what this is. So here's in the doc that you sent all laid out, which is nice. So it's these cards with colors and shapes on them. Tell people what they're looking at here and maybe if you want to show them as well, that's fine too. But
yeah. So this is a new product called Pallet Scout. It's a deck of cards, and it is aiming to teach people to explore and be inspired by the world of color. So over the years running a yarn shop, I've heard a lot from people that they don't feel confident in color. They love color, but they don't know what is going to look good together. And there is color theory that kind of underpins how all of us see and understand color, whether we know that theory or not. And the goal of this card game is to make it really fun and easy to understand those concepts and to be able to pick out colors that are going to go well together. So you can do this.
Actually, I didn't understand it. Sorry, is it a game?
So this is a really good clarifying question, and I would appreciate any advice you have on like how we position it. It's not a game in the sense that two people sit around and like you can't win. It is an open-ended experience where you can be inspired by looking at like, a whole bunch. This is just a few of them, but we have 180 colors. So you can kind of be inspired by them and choosing your palettes. And then we have challenge cards, which are more of the game aspect of it, which tell you to try something new with color, like put together a color palette that evokes a feeling of delight. Like, is the color palette that your friend put together, do they look the same or different? So it's open-ended. It's not a winner's game. Do you think we should use the word game or be careful to steer away from that? Okay.
But I actually think so I'm going to tell you my opinion because I have an opinion about everything. But you should probably, that's probably where my advice is not expert necessarily. I'll just tell you my initial reaction from the stuff you sent me to this. The idea that there are people who want to craft or do DIY something or put together whether it's crafting or putting together a room or something, like
decorating,
and thinking about how color. Right. here's what I relate to there deeply. I mean, I say this to my wife all the time. I will like be like, I will just say like, can I wear this shirt? Like I'm right now, you're probably looking at my royal blue Dodgers hat and my maroon t-shirt and thinking like, ooh, you need these cards. Cause I don't have a clue. I can't see it. And I can tell just like anybody else can when something looks good, but I couldn't pick it apart for you. You know, it's not like an ad account where I can look at it and I can tell you what's happening under the surface just by looking at it, right? Like the colors are there. But the other thing is I also am well aware that this is not magic in the sense that like there's a skill to be developed and learned and it's teachable, because I've been around people who have learned it and, you know, who people always have this sense about like visual arts in general, which is like, oh, I'm bad at that or I'm good at that. And I am bad at it, but I'm certain that I could get better at it if somebody taught me. I would still probably not be great at it. I don't think I have any natural talent, but, and I think there is such a thing as talent, but I don't, but at the same time, that's okay. So the idea that, you know, you could have these cards as a way to guide me through color theory, which is without having to learn color theory, which again is like a thing I'm aware exists, but I don't know that's the case. Now I'm pretty far from your core customer. I'm probably not going to be a buyer of these cards either way. But the idea, I could see my wife, who's not super crafty but wants to make things look nice. I could see her being like, this is super helpful to me. So the idea that it's a guide to how to think well about color in a way that is going to walk you through that, it makes so much sense to me. And yeah, I think it's a really, really smart idea. I have no idea. Are there competitive products to this that you've seen?
We're pretty unique. I mean, there's lots of color wheels. There's lots of things that go into the in-depth of color theory, and those are important for art students to understand and designers. But there's nothing that is playful in this sense. That kind of what we use is we use shapes. So you know, this is an example of this orange carrot, and it would tell you, okay, I could combine with like these colors or these colors or these colors. And then I can go in and find my deck of cards and like look for those specific ones and then kind of pull them out. You know, if you were decorating your house, now probably it's not the 70s, you're not going to use these yellows, but like you can kind of hold these up in the, you know, to your wall or to your outfit and say, oh yeah, like that comes from this card. I can see it's this kind of color palette. Maybe I'm interested that that's called analogous. Maybe I don't care. But this is fun. Like I can pick these colors. My kid can do an art project with these colors. Things like that. So yeah. And we want to be able to like reach a wide market of people that think color is fun and are nervous about it. So
so at a baseline, I'll say I see, I think what you see here, which is that there's real potential reach with this product that it could apply to a lot of people. So let's talk a little bit about now how you're thinking about rolling it out. Okay, what's the price point for it?
$29.95.
Okay, and it's how many cards?
108 cards.
108 cards. And then how easy is it for me to learn how to use these?
Easy. So we have like an instruction booklet that shows you how to do it. There's a QR code that you can watch if you want. But you're really meant to be able to like pick up this card and be able to immediately start making color palettes.
That was my experience with what you just showed me, was like, oh, I get it. You know, and the idea, what are the little sub things? This is like complementary or whatever. Like, what do the words say?
Yeah, so these are types of color palettes: complementary, monochrome, analogous, split complement, and triadic. You can decide you want to learn these, and our booklet tells you what they mean, or you can be like, I don't care, I just want to play with color. So
yeah, you know, it's funny though, because I even that, like, I kind of get it with each category right away without having, like, it's fairly intuitive. I think the idea that there'd be these different ways these colors go together. And,
I mean, you're a marketer, you know, color is very important in marketing. You know, there's different kinds of colors that are used for different kinds of, you know, to draw attention in different ways. Well, so that might be why you draw into it. Yeah.
Maybe I'm bad at visual design. Like I'm you know, I'm a word person first. And so yeah, that's, which I think is a separate skill set. But okay, so $29.95. Let's start by thinking a little bit about how I think new products work for brands, and then we can jump into like what you're thinking right now about how it goes, and then from there. So to frame this up, I think that there is a basic kind of way that new product releases work in terms of the way that they create value for a brand. Okay, so this gets at how I'm trying to think about how new products work in businesses. And it's really simple, but I think it's still helpful to frame up the way that a product creates value. So when you launch new products, this is broader. This also references sales and things like that. But basically, that every new product creates opportunity in two areas of your business. And very simply, it's with new customers and returning customers. And the baseline to good product release strategy is to think about both, and think carefully about how your product works in relation to each of these. This little cycle that I'm showing here is, it doesn't really matter which order you put these in. You release the new product and then they all reinforce each other. And so let's actually start on the bottom right with the idea of retention, because this is probably, I think, a lot of the way at first you at least think about the way a new product is going to go. On launch day, when you launch a new product, most of the value that you create is going to be with your existing customer list, right? And so job number one is to make that as valuable as possible. So in a second, I want to talk about how we launch the product to your existing customers and how we think about grabbing their attention and making sure they know and see all the things that are good about it. And I would think about that probably across both of your brands, actually, that this is something you promote to both groups. So retention becomes this key part of it. And one of the important things to note is that, like, I've talked about this plenty, and I think lots of people have, which is that, like, retention tactics only get you so far. They work really well to serve a moment like this, where you're going to launch a new product with real value potential in a business. But they don't do that much on their own. What they do is they fuel moments, and then generally have some ongoing things where, you're sending emails, etc. Obviously, I think you've got a good example of where retention, like sending great emails, is actually getting word of mouth and is really important. And so it's really worth putting the time in. That's maybe one of those places where being in a sub community of some kind changes that a little bit, where the retention tactics maybe matter a little bit more. But for a lot of, like, broader release brands, the key here is to create value in a moment like this as you launch a new product. So you launch a new product, and the product becomes the way you generate a bunch more returning customer revenue. The product becomes the way you generate LTV. It's not just send more emails about the stuff you already have, for a lot of brands. Now, if you're a supplement brand or something like that, it's a little bit different. But in this case, that's the way it goes. So that's job number one. And so that's one of the things I want to think about here is, like, how do we do a great job releasing the product so that we capture the attention of the audience you already have, sell more product to them, and that always sounds so mercenary, but it's create value for them, in a way that creates value back for your business. Okay. So that's the goal. Okay. Then job number two is to think about how, that ends up also producing additional reach and additional value, because every new product, especially something like this, that has, or you have good reason to believe has potential ability to reach more broadly into new audiences. I would say, the question I'd be thinking about here is, okay, then how do I take that once I've already done a great job on release, and at the same time get it out in front of new audiences, and produce additional value over more time in the communities that I care about. So you generate additional value and grow the business as you launch products. And each product, I think, functions kind of like as its own pipe or something. And by adding more pipes, you have more ways for people to get through to your business, basically. It's something like that kind of analogy. And that then creates the opportunity to acquire new customers with high-performing ads. This slide references ads. It doesn't have to be ads. It could be organic content, whatever. And then that cycle reinforces. At some point, as you acquire new customers, you will think of maybe there's a secondary product alongside the Pallet Scout game, or I call it a game there, but Pallet Scout card deck, right? That is like Pallet Scout extension pack or something, and it becomes like part of how, you go from there. And so then, of course, what does that do? That creates additional opportunities for retention, or maybe it's even like a completely complementary product that, the Pallet Scout expansion pack probably isn't a way you really acquire new customers. You can't probably go put that product in the ad account because it's complementary to this one, but maybe there's some other color related product that is a totally it complements your current brand, but at the same time also gives you opportunity to reach new customers entirely, right? So apparel businesses are the classic example of this, where every new product is an opportunity to not only sell to your past customers, but to reach a new customer, right? Every new shirt you release is a shirt that somebody new might be interested in when they weren't interested in any of your old shirts or whatever. So that's how this works. So that's the way I want to think about this problem in two stages. Stage one, how do we do a great job on launch? Stage two, how do we scale it basically from there? And how do we create more opportunities? So I'll pause there. Any thoughts on that? Anything like that?
Yeah, I'm excited to dive into all of that. We do have some companion products that are already in the works, so I can talk about that if and when that would be relevant to this conversation.
Yeah, let's put that on the back of the conversation.
Okay, great.
And maybe we'll get to that as well.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the launch strategy. When we're recording in April, when are you planning on releasing this?
So we are going to do a pre-order for this for our existing Just Yarn customers in May, which is a couple weeks from when we're recording this, and then we expect to launch to like when it arrives into our warehouse, all of the products in late June, early July. We expect to launch then. We've done pre-orders as a strategy for growing our business for Gist since the beginning. So like when we do new yarn lines, we can generally like fund our production orders through those pre-orders from our customers, and we give them a discount and they get to be part of it. And yeah, so that's what we're planning to do for this launch with those customers.
Okay, I love that. So the pre-order, I was going to ask you a little bit about, because one of my first questions actually is like your ordering strategy here before we even get to a launch. Have you already placed your order with your manufacturer around how much of this stuff you're going to order?
Yeah, we ordered 2,000 units and they are expected to ship in 2 weeks.
Okay, great. How aggressive or conservative is a 2,000 unit order for you, cash wise and audience size wise?
So cash wise, it's not it's a lot less expensive for manufacturing than a new yarn line, which is typically what we make. The cash that really went into this was the product development. I told you it took 2 years. It's a lot of graphic design work.
Yep.
Audience size wise, it's aggressive. I mean, it's aggressive, but it's a new product for us, so we actually don't really know how aggressive it is, right? When you sell yarn, you sell it in 15 different colors, and so one card deck. We'll see. It's new for us.
Yeah, I mean it's a great product if it works, especially because it will scale really well. It's deck of cards, so I assume high margin. This is sort of like the it's almost like pharmaceuticals or something like that, where like you said, it's 2 years that goes into it. So like the first deck of cards is pretty expensive to make, but the second deck of cards is very cheap to make. And that's the way like pharmaceuticals work, right? The very first pill you make is very expensive, but once you make the second pill, it scales really, really well. Because once you have this product, then it's just a pill. So yeah, the same thing is kind of true here. So I assume, at $30, probably really high margin in the long run in that respect, which is great. And so that means cash wise, you're probably in good shape on release. I like the idea of ordering to really be ready to push hard for that reason. Probably not going to get yourself in a big cash trouble at this point by having too many of them. 2,000 is a lot, but it's not crazy. You probably sell those. And again, at the kind of margins you're talking about, that's great. So, okay, I like that. And it's one SKU. So eventually long term, if this goes great, you should have an easy time managing it. And if it becomes a, $15 million product or something like that for the business, it should be fairly easy to order. So, all right. So that's great. So, okay. So the pre-order strategy, let's talk about that a little bit. How have you done that in the past? How have you, how much advance notice, how much of a discount, and how are you sort of looping people into that? You also said people get to be a part of it, and I'm curious to hear you talk about that a little bit more too.
Sure. And I think this is a little different for yarn than for this product. But so the first yarn line that we ever made had a $20,000 minimum order for me to order from the mill, and I did not have that kind of money. So I made some samples, took like 2 or 3 photographs of a few different colors of this yarn and described it to our email list and asked people if they wanted to pre-order it and help us make this yarn, knowing that like if not enough people ordered, I would just refund their money. We didn't use Kickstarter or anything. It was just on our website, and pre-sold more than enough to fund that first purchase order and kind of get off to the races. And so that was that yarn took us 7 months to make.
Negative cash conversion cycle, which is a beautiful thing.
I mean, it's a real testament to just how wonderful our customers are, because there's so much great yarn that you can buy and get right away. Like, why would you wait for 7 months? It's because people love small businesses in our industry, and they love yarn, and they just want to help. And
probably speaks to you having treated your customers well for a long time, being authentic and core in the space. It probably speaks to how wonderful you guys have been as a company. So that's awesome.
Yeah,
You've
it's
built
great.
trust. That's brand equity. That's what that is. Yeah.
We have
Yeah.
Gist has a lot of brand equity. Zali is new, so we're working
Yeah.
on building it, and there's some parallel
Yeah.
equity because of Gist. But yeah, so that's what we've done. That took us 7 months to deliver, and what I mean by be a part of it is I sent a plain text email to all pre-orders every month saying like, this month we're dyeing the yarn, and like these are the delays we're seeing,
So
and
cool.
this is the
That's so
problems,
cool.
and that meant that like very few people, I actually don't think anybody said, "Oh, it's taking too long, refund my money." So that's what we did for that, and we've done that. We've now launched six or seven yarn lines in that method. This card deck is a little bit different because it's not a yarn line. Like it's not as complicated. Yarn takes many steps. It's expensive. There's a lot of stages of manufacturing to bring people along. We want to do a pre-order for this for our Gist customers, mostly because we think they're going to love it. We want to give them the first chance to get it, and give them a little bit of a discount and an opportunity, to just be the first to get a product that we're really excited about. So hopefully we will get reviews right away from people who know and trust our brand and get it right away. And that I think can help us with new customer acquisition. So that's another reason for the pre-order from the marketing side, the pre-order strategy.
Yeah, that's great. So I think the negative cash conversion cycle thing is really helpful for something like this. I think it's also, a yarn line feels like it's not a very buzzy thing, even though people like it and are excited about it. It's, maybe that's wrong, but
people love yarn line launches. Yeah.
Okay,
in our world.
All right, great.
Yes, they love it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. That's good to know. I think there's always a thing that entrepreneurs want in a situation like this where they've got a new product they're excited about, which is this notion of building buzz. And I think there are potential ways to do that, sort of, but it's sort of a little bit different than what I think of ultimately as the goal. Like I think that for most product releases, you want short-term buzz less and long-term sustainability more. That's where the actual value is going to be created, unless you can really create a lot of buzz. But I just think it's a really hard job and probably requires a bunch of dollars for most brands, right? Because it normally requires getting like serious influencers in the space involved and all that stuff. And I would think more here about how does this product become really, really core and a reliable resource to a broad range of crafters in the space, so that it becomes like a resource is kind of the right word, like a go-to resource that a lot of DIY and crafter types know exists, have on hand, use as they're putting things together, and it just becomes sort of a co-pilot to them as they're working on different things. And that's my sense of your vision for the product. Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's a big market. There's a lot of crafters, and that's going to take time to penetrate in that way. So I think what I would think about more first is just like, how do we make this experience great for my current audiences? And so I think you've got some basic ideas right away. And I'm going to tell you what I would do generally, but I'm going to also asterisk this thought right away, which is that you have this thing, which is that you are core to a community, and you don't want to do anything to risk your reputation with them at all to make a bigger launch day, right? And so I'm going to suggest to you the way I would think about this. You may need to tweak it for this particular audience. I would be really careful about, for most brands, I'm like, you can't email too much. It's impossible. For you, I think you probably can. For you, I think people are going to tell if you're getting like greedy, and in your case, I would probably, at least especially on the Gist side, where you just really want to make sure that people know that you are really attempting to create value for them and not just take value from them. And so here's the way I would begin to think about some of these things. So I love your pre-order strategy. You said you're going to release to full audience in June, pre-order in May. Is that right?
Probably July. I mean, whenever it arrives into our warehouse.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So is there, and you're going to do a discount for those people for pre-order?
Yes. And we also built an online course about color theory that we're going to sell, but we're going to offer it for free to our Gist Yarn customers that pre-order.
Okay. I think that's great. So here's the baseline thing I would do for almost any product release. I would be thinking in the short term about how you stay in front of people. In the long term, I'd also be thinking about how to build a better list for the next product release. And what I mean by that is, is SMS a big part of your strategy at all?
We don't use SMS at all for Gist. We probably should, though. Yeah.
Okay, here's what I would tell most people. Let's think about this for Gist versus not. What I would tell most people is your SMS list has it's maximal value at moments. And at moments, what I mean is product releases and sales, basically. And holidays and things like that. Right. So like if it's Black Friday, SMS is better than any channel at cutting through noise and actually reaching your customer. What it's really bad at is messaging. It's expensive. The moment that you get past 140 characters or whatever it is that gets you off of a single SMS text, it gets really expensive really fast. And so but what it's great at is like deliverability. People always cite these stats, right? You get like a 99% deliverability or something with SMS, which is like, of course, quadruple what you get for email or something. And so when you want to reach somebody at the exact time of release, SMS is an unparalleled tool, because you can hit people at even at a specific time. You can make it so that you hit them the moment you have a release. If you're gonna have a limited edition product or something like that, you can make sure people get the SMS right away. So what I think of is like, there's a lot of ways to build an SMS list, including with your email pop-up on site, and, have SMS as a second stage of that, SMS at checkout. And those things definitely help. You can build big lists over time. I know there's some tools that have come out around that. But my favorite tool for this is to use the moment to build your SMS list for the moment and then also for future moments. And so what I would typically do is I would take an audience and I would say via email, we have a new product coming. It's coming in 2 weeks, and start 2 weeks out, something like that. It is going to be awesome. We spent 2 years developing it. We think it's going to be a huge help to you in a whole bunch of ways. If you want to make absolutely sure you do not miss out, then the best thing to do is to sign up for our SMS list. We'll make sure it gets in front of you that way that day. And when you do that, we will give you X for free. So one of the simple things to do here would be, especially if the product is going to have any potential limited edition, like if you think you might sell through all 2,000 of them, then that's something that you could say, essentially, like, we'll get you earliest access to it. We'll ship it to you first. You'll be the first ones to get it. And it sounds like people are really invested in the business in a way that they might really value that, and say like, we're going to order these. We think there's some chance it'll sell out. We're going to make sure you're first on the list. And the way to do that is to be the first orders. The people who get the first opportunity to order are going to be our SMS customers, are going to be people who are on this list. And that's the way we're going to do it. Don't worry, we are not going to send you an SMS 3 times a week, right. And you really aren't, right? Like, it's just not going to be good. Yeah. So then that SMS list begins to get built for this moment. And of course, at the moment of release, your SMS list is going to smash. It's just going to. Now, the only hesitation I have on this is that your email list, I bet, already performs awesome. And so it may actually create cost for you that you don't need, at least on the gist side. I think for Zali, where you're really looking at being a little less niche and a little bigger, it's the place where I would invest in that even more. And what I might even tell people on the gist side is Zali is going to keep moving forward, essentially, with a bunch of stuff. If you would like to get on this list, for Zali, that's the place to do it. And so essentially they know they're opting past Gist into Zali. And that way they kind of are engaged over there as well, uniquely. They may miss your Zali emails, even if they get all of your Gist emails, etc. And so you might be able to start to engage them with this other brand in this other way. And they probably are a powerful group of people to be thinking about with that. You can even probably sell them the vision a little bit here. If they're weavers, they're deep, they care a lot. They might be excited about the idea of like, hey, what we really want to do is take the joy of crafting and of all these things and get it out to a broader group of people. This has been really important and meaningful in our lives. That's what this tool is for. It's to help other people get engaged with this. And that's what this whole brand is for. We've got these starter kits and these gift kits and these things like that so that people can get their start. They maybe not be ready to weave on day one, but they may be ready to start with making these little, baskets or whatever that you had that you had as sort of your starter kit thing. So that's probably the first thing I would do is I would think about building a pre-order early first access SMS list. And the way I would do that is like 2 weeks out, 1 week out, and then like 2 days before launch, be hitting them a few times. And of course, exclude everybody who's already signed up for the list each time you send, right? So, hey, just want to give you one more chance. We're going to have this release here. You can get on the list and you could do that. So to me, that's like baseline. And for anybody watching this, almost all products work well this way. And that SMS list, overdoing that a lot of times, gets more and more powerful at every moment. And crucially, when you get to moments that are more competitive, like let's say you are a Father's Day or Mother's Day or Black Friday or Christmas product specifically, and those moments are really big for you, like that SMS list becomes incredibly valuable at those peak moments where it's really competitive to get people's attention, because it's just cuts through noise so well. So it's sort of a short-term, long-term thought.
And so how are you doing that? You're emailing your customers and trying to get them to opt in. You're doing it on
Correct.
organic social, both of those. Okay.
Email's the first thing. So it would be an email, a pre-order email. The other thing is like it'll, even if they don't sign up for the list, it warms them to the idea. So so 2 weeks before, because people do this sometimes where they are trying to build up buzz for a product, right? And they send a teaser email, and that's fine as far as it goes, but also probably at the same time, like you want to give people an action to take if they're excited about the product, right? So otherwise you say like, this thing is coming, talk to you soon, like instead give them a CTA, sign up for this list and make sure you're notified. Honestly, even if the only CTA you give them is like opt into this email list, so even if you don't go the full SMS route, opt into our pre-order list, they're already on your email list, but it just might give them like a subset, just another reason, an action to take, a micro conversion, people will say, right, to just kind of get excited about it, and makes them think about this idea that it's coming, etc. I've seen people do things like, create a calendar notification or something like that. Like that feels like a little bit of a reach to me. I don't know. You might be able to do it for an audience like that. I've never like done that. I've just heard of it. But yeah, it gives people a reason. And then it also just tells them like, hey, this product is coming, get excited about it, etc.
Yeah.
Email to an SMS. Typically what you do is like make a CTA. The CTA goes to a page where, it's incredibly simple page, like a few lines of text with a SMS number box on it. And you just say like, put in your number here, sign up, boom. And that's it. So, okay. Any other questions about that?
No, it's definitely something we'll consider. I mean, we are collecting SMSs for Zali. We're just like on a much smaller scale there. So we will use that. And then, we have to think about the gist part. It's hard to know, I guess, without testing. Like, I feel like we can email them for free. Like, then they will. Yeah. But I totally understand about cutting through the noise with SMS, and also just having another way to reach people is valuable. So it's a good idea to build that way.
And like I said, it's partly the short-term bump. Like that SMS list will perform at that moment. The SMS list is partly for that short term, but it's also partly a long-term game. It's like it builds a list that's pretty hard to build otherwise. Yeah. And it builds a list of people who are self-selecting into being your best customers, right? If they're the kind of person who wants an SMS for a product release, does that. So, and then of course, anything else you want to say in there, like whether it's like you get it first or you get a special offer if you're on the SMS list or something like that. You're giving them some value back for it. My favorite thing to do there is you get it first. And the reason for that is that it works really. SMS is really good at reaching people fast, and so that's useful on its own. But it also doesn't have to give anything extra. It's valuable to people already. If you ever release like a limited edition product or something like that, an SMS list is insanely valuable because for people who then people really do need to like the timing mechanism to be right. So yeah.
And then are you SMSing people and then sending the email like an hour later, or like how do you typically stack that?
I'd send it a little later than that. Probably, but something like that, because then you're excluding people who are purchasers from that first email, right? So so that way they don't get like spammed by you or whatever. Okay, so that's the first thing I would do is like build that list. The second thing I would do, and again, send a few of those. It allows you to. It's an excuse to send teaser emails as well, and to get people really excited about it. If you have video content that you are ready to put out before the product is actually released, that's another thing you can do is like send people a teaser email with a link to that video content, and then in the video content you can send people to sign up for the SMS list or something, or there's a few things you could do there. So just give people a next step to take at every step of the way, so that they just have a way to keep opting in to if they're excited about it, to making sure that they get it into staying engaged with the brand in that way.
Okay. And again, this is not to cold audiences. This is only to people who already know us, right? Okay.
Yeah, correct. Anybody on your email list, they don't have to have bought from you. This is also where I'd reach deeper into your email list. If you are excluding unengaged people from your list right now, put them back in there for this, because it's a totally new product. You're not going to get dinged with your deliverability by sending one email to your whole list. So if you can definitely go really far on something like this. And that's another broad point here. At major moments, at least send some of your emails and some of your SMSs to your full list. Even if you're not normally doing that, then at least at some of those moments, some people will re-engage on that stuff. So yeah. Okay. That's probably step one. Step two, let's talk about the content for it. What content are you currently creating to go along with this?
So there's going to be a 90-second product page video. I think I included the script for that at the bottom of that document that I sent you. That's going to show people how it's used. We're going to make when you have you mean what, for people who haven't gotten the product yet, right? Like for marketing.
Correct. Yeah. Really just basically, how are you telling people what it is and how it's useful? Because I think this product requires a little bit of explanation. It's like, what exactly is this and why is it good? And so I would think carefully about that.
Yeah. So there's that video, which that's for like when you're on the product page. That's not an ad, but like really showing what it is. We're going to have lots of photography, and then we need to design some really great ads.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So this brings up another thing, which is some people wonder about what about using ads for retention audiences and for reaching your past customers. I think when you have a product that's new, it is a good idea to put a little bit of spend behind putting that product in front of your past audiences. Some people just are not going to get your emails. They're just not. And that's the reality of the world you live in. And so just like anything, like, exclude people who have purchased that particular product, exclude people who have purchased in the last couple of days or something like that. But otherwise, put together something simple, video wise, that I think an explainer is perfect for somebody who knows the brand already, and run it to your past audience at a very low spend and aim at a very high return. So the goal here is not like, the goal is just to stay in front of people for relatively cheap. It's actually not too different than SMS in this respect. Like SMS, you're going to get a whatever ROI on it, a 5 or a 7 or a 10 to 1 ROI, depending on the cost, right? Meta ads can be about the same as that, where to a retention audience is people who already know you. You're just wanting to make sure that you don't miss out. And I don't have a problem spending a little bit of money to do that. I would probably just wait a few days before you launch those, just like that way anybody who buys over that time doesn't get hammered or whatever with those, and you'd save a little bit of cost. But even that, I don't know. I mean, I don't mind. It's just not going to be that expensive to do it for a very small audience like that. So that would be one way to do it. And if the audience is so small that Meta won't actually let you target that group of people because it's just too small of an audience or something, then just include website visitors or something like that. So
no, we can we can target our email list. I should say, when I say we don't do Meta for we just don't do new prospecting. We sometimes do retargeting. So
and I think that's fine.
And it's highly profitable. So I'm skeptical of like how much Meta should get credit for it, but it is profitable.
Well, that's exactly right. If it's highly profitable, that's the whole point, right? You hold it to a very high standard and say like, if you're getting a 5 or a 7 to 1 or something like that, you probably hold it to a click only performance target, right? Because if again, view conversions are going to be really messy here. People are getting your emails and stuff already, so etc. But look at a click only target and say, if you're getting some large number that you think is reasonable for your audience, then that's fine. I'm willing to pay $10 on a $100 order or whatever it is to make this happen, or $20, something like that. If you are listening to or watching the Interference podcast, I hope you already know that you need to have upgraded pixel tracking, pixel event match quality for your Meta ads integration. This is a well-known thing. There are a couple of third-party products out there, but the one that I use with my brands and my products is Billy, B-I-L-Y, Billy.ai. And that's for a simple couple of reasons. First of all, if you're using the standard Shopify Meta Pixel installation, you absolutely right now should stop listening to this episode and go to Billy.ai and change it so that you actually use 100% server-side tracking with Billy instead of the native integration that you see in Shopify. You will immediately get a better event match quality in your Meta ads, and that will help you see more accurate data in platform, also feed Meta better data to optimize against as well. So that's just a no-doubter. I've also tested Billy against multiple other third-party 100% server-side tracking setups, pixel installations, and it has beaten all of them in every measure that I can think of, right? And so I've actually gone and run split tests on my ad accounts where I just send the traffic across 2 different pixels, repeated this test a few different times, and Billy has outperformed all of the other ones that I've done. They're also cheaper than the other options, like meaningfully cheaper than the other options out there. For many of you who are listening to or watching this podcast right now, you basically need to sell 1 more product per month and Billy will pay for itself, maybe 2. It's really that affordable. It's unbelievable how disruptive the pricing has been. And so go check out right now, Billy.ai, Billy.ai, to upgrade your tracking, save some costs on your software, and give Meta the data it needs to optimize as best as possible. At this point, this is just a no doubt part of your tech stack for an e-commerce brand. Go to Billy.ai to get started today. Okay, so that's a simpler thing. Okay, content is coming. I would just make sure that the same thing, like promote your best content to your list. And I would probably think about that after the release. So initial release happens, maybe you've got your one, if that content's on the PDP, they're going to see that there. But, do an explainer, show people, explainer email. Here's what it is. Here's why we're excited about it. It's live now. Go buy it. They get to the PDP and it's going to have that video content on it, etc. And then what I would do is I would be willing to email at least a little more than usual after launch. So if you're 3 times a week normally for Gist, I might be willing to take it to 5 for 1 week or something like that, just to really signal to people, we really think this will help you and make the content good. Here's a project I did with this, and let me show you exactly. So one of them is explainer. Here's what the product is, etc. That may be its own email after release. So you start with just like what the product is. It's live now. Go get it. Email number 2 is something like, we put together a video showing you exactly what this is. Here it is, and there's a play button on it, but the play button just takes them straight to the PDP, and they can see it there. Go watch it now and learn more about it. Email number 3 is, here's me. I like your outfit thing. I think it's actually kind of interesting. Like, here's me doing 3 things with this. Here's me picking out an outfit with this. Here's me looking at a DIY project with this, or something around the house with this. And then here's me doing some weaving with this and picking out my yarns or something like that. I don't, whatever. And you might actually create a specific piece of content like that for the Gist audience, right? A weaving related piece of content, just to show them how it's useful to them specifically in a way that's unique to them. And again, just sort of get it in motion. Email number 4 is plain text. If you didn't see, it's going great. We've sold a lot of these. People love them. And we want to make sure you don't miss out. The whole point is just vary the content, keep it going, and signal to your audience between email and organic social for sure. Here, we really are excited about this. Some of that organic social can be stills. Some of it can be selfie videos, you don't have to go crazy in terms of expensive or make the greatest content in the history of the world. Just signal to them, we think this is really important and we want to make sure that you see it all over the place, that you are engaging with us, so that they know that you're excited about it, essentially, and that it allows you to do or allows you to kind of communicate that as clearly as possible. That core audience between SMS, pre-order, those emails, organic, the stuff you'll do on your website and all that. Now you've basically tapped every channel you have where you have owned audiences and a little bit of paid. You now are going to make sure that you get in front of them. And that's basically what you want to do here, so that they're very excited about it. I don't know that there's a great way within your existing customer group to build more buzz than to do that, and to just expect that at every touch point, we're going to make sure we hit people.
Yeah, it sounds good.
Anything? Okay, great. All right, cool.
It sounds.
You were probably already thinking about that.
A lot of that, except for the SMS, mirrors how we think about pre-orders from yarn launches, and we hadn't necessarily been thinking about hitting so many emails for this product launch. But I'm going to rethink that, because I like your idea of how you stacked those 3, those 3 suggestions. Yeah. So
and people will feel that if you normally send 3 a week and you're sending more, they'll go. They're not going to be annoyed. They like you. In fact, they like hearing from you. This is why they sign up for your email list in the first place. Everybody's too afraid of annoying people. As long as the content doesn't suck, they're not going to be annoyed. So yeah. And you do actually have this opportunity to kind of create 2 moments with it, because you've got your pre-order moment where you're going to do that. And then you can basically rerun the playbook in a very similar way when it's actually live. And I would literally, maybe exclude people who have clicked on those emails or something like that. But basically relaunch the same emails, change the subject line, and say, hey, it's here. We're excited about it. It came out even better than we thought. All that kind of stuff, So yeah, you can basically do that in 2 different moments.
Great.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about one other thing though, which is, I am curious how you're thinking about this product in relation to influencers in the spaces that your brands exist. Do you have any plan around that right now?
Great question. Yes. So we have put together a list of a number of influencers that we're going to reach out to, people that we have relationships with and people that we hope to have relationships with. We're going to be reaching out to people and offering a free product, with no ask in exchange, essentially. So not out of the gate trying to get paid gigs, but just trying to see where, who's interested in this, who actually seems excited about it. And then I'm definitely open to an affiliate or other sort of paid collab for for where it actually seems to have some traction.
When do you think you'll get the product relative to when you release the product?
So we are air shipping 1 carton of it first. So we're going to try to send this out to influencers. I'm curious what you think of this timing, but like 2 weeks before it launches, because we don't really want people making content before it can be bought, but we also want content at launch, hopefully. So
this is where I would say, I think at this part of the strategy, I would make a distinction between influencers that you already have a relationship with, where if you reach out to them and say like they love you and they want to support you, and you say like, hey, we're so grateful, this is a big deal to us, we'd love to send it to you for free. Would you, if you are able to, or if you're willing to, you want to post and you can have a specific code, you could have an affiliate thing with them, something like that, so they have a little skin in the game, and say like, just don't post until this day, but we want people to, again, see it all the places that they're already engaging with things. So that's you're not going to be able to get that to happen with people who are not already engaged with you as influencers, right? So I think that's probably like the launch and retention part of the plan, is to think about it like that. And then what you're really hoping for with those people, and what I would probably keep trying to nurture, is you want them to actually use the product. That's what matters the most here, because in the long run, the real value in this product is going to come in stage 2. The retention moment, you're probably going to do a great job. All the things I told you are not rocket science. Stay in front of your list, build an SMS list for the short and long term. All of those things will help you have a bigger moment, but I'm guessing that bigger moment is not going to be like life-changing, business-changing moment. Yeah. It's going to be a really good moment for a good brand, which is great. Those are great. Again, it's 2 years of work to get there. There's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears involved. Good moments are great, and they're worth celebrating. So I don't want to poo-poo that too much.
I hear you.
But,
and
yeah.
Yes.
But at the same time, in the longer term, for what you're trying to build with Zali, I think, from what I hear you saying, maybe let's just pause there. Zali, you think, has upside to be a much bigger business. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. I think it has a potential market that's a lot larger, of people who want crafts that are a little more portable and easier to learn than weaving. There's a larger total addressable market with Zali. And these color palette cards, Scout, really goes past, past makers into DIYers and into people like that. So, yes.
So let's talk about this a little bit. What are your hopes for Zali in terms of how big of a business it can be? What do you have, whether you want to call it hopes or dreams or goals, any of those kinds of forecasts, whichever language you want to put around it, what are you thinking about it in terms of where it's going to go?
Yeah, we are in too early of a stage to forecast Zali, I would say. I hope that it can, that together these brands can become an 8-figure brand. Right now, we're a low 7-figure brand with Gist. And I think that the synergies of these new companies, of these 2 companies together, and that, this overall, we're a yarn company selling to broader audiences, can get us there. That's my hope. And we're still figuring out how to get the traction for Zali to make that happen.
Okay.
So we're in stage 1, I would say, of that.
Cool. Yeah. Because you said you launched the company, what did you say, 6 months ago or something like that, 7 months ago?
The end of September 2023.
Okay, great. Yeah. So really new still. Okay.
Yeah. And we've tried some Facebook we're trying to get traction, but still haven't hit it yet.
Yeah. You know what though? You showed me your Facebook ad account. We don't have to go into it really, but you're not too far away. You're not getting. I realized that you weren't profitable. You turned it off, but you've got some ads in there that are right around a 1-to-1 return, and that early of a stage for somebody where that's not their core skill set, I think you should feel pretty good about. I think you're not in an impossible spot here. So
would you keep running those?
I think I
know that's a side note, but you would keep going with unprofitable ads, or?
No, I wouldn't keep going with unprofitable ads, and I would definitely run manual bids. What I would do is, though, I would keep iterating on creative in a way that that went after it. You had a long form explainer in there, which I appreciated.
Thank
seeing.
you.
Somebody who listened to my podcast, and I look at that and say okay, you gotta start creating variations of that. Just take that basic idea and start making variations and see what happens, especially with this product. So this gets actually outside of the influencer conversation, though. I think that's important in a second here. And I would say Zali has more of an opportunity for meta ads than Gist to be a real impactful thing. And I actually think this product in particular could be really mass market, I think. And so that's where like an explainer of saying, and it's high margin, which is a massive advantage. And if you've got like a digital piece of and a digital content with it you've talked about, now you can bundle those, drive up the AOV a little bit from $30 to maybe you can get it to what, 50, something like that.
That's a hope.
Yeah, great. That's $50 is such a reasonable entry point for a customer to get real value from your brand with explainer type content, and for you it's incredibly high margin, and because it's digital content and then a deck of cards basically, and that would create the opportunity for you to really scale that, and you could get somewhere. So I would be thinking about how I could build a plan on ads to go like, okay, let's build a lander with a special offer, gives people a reason to take their wallet out right now. You can run that probably at a pretty low ROAS and make money on it still, and have an entry point into the brand, and run that alongside other stuff that you're doing. I think that could be really, really good. So yeah, that would be like a longer term thing here, is like, and that gets into this next stage of how I would approach this. I just think that the product really lends to the explainer concept. If you're going to already make an explainer video on your PDP anyway, I mean, just flip that thing into an ad, put a manual bid on it at the point that you're going to be profitable. Like stuff I talk about all the time. I set it at a bid cap and see what happens. It's so low risk to you. As long as you're running manual bids, it just won't spend. If it's not going to work, and if it spends at your target, great. Now you've got a profitable growth mechanism without having to do a whole lot more work. So yeah, let me pause there because I just floated through a few concepts, but yeah, any thoughts or questions about that?
I mean, definitely I am turning our Meta account back on to work on to do Pallet Scout. Part of the reason I turned it off is I wanted to conserve some of our Meta spend resources to be able to try for this new product. I think we learned a lot about messaging over the past few months trying Meta, of like what was selling well, and those got better. It started to tank again related to, I don't know. I mean, our CPMs just doubled. I don't know why. And so we had to, anyway, that's why I stopped there, but it was a pause, not a stop. And I want to try with this new product. I think an explainer video is really solid. I put bid cap ads up there the way you suggested and got just like no spend. I don't know. It just wasn't, it wouldn't spend at all. But I'm going to go back and listen to your episode about what to do when that happens.
Yeah, we could look and see if we can figure it out. Yeah. I mean, at the same time, what I'll tell you is that your bid cap ads, like your ad performance was, probably well under what your bid caps were set up profitability wise, right? Like,
yeah, right.
And so the bid caps may have done exactly what you asked them to do, which is don't spend, So
yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
In that case, that's possible. At least there's potentially some settings issues and making sure attribution's aligned with optimization and all that stuff, but if your ads aren't performing, then the bid caps suppresses them. But that's the beauty in this moment, right? As you go launch a bunch of new stuff and you're creating a bunch of content for this thing, you then can eliminate the risk of blowing a bunch of money on Facebook ads, which is how businesses go broke, by just like launching at a bid cap and seeing. And you could start the bid cap a little bit more aggressive if you wanted, like, hey, in the early stages, we're going to aim it at a 1-to-1 just to see if we can get some spend, get some feedback about what's going on. We're probably not going to get totally slaughtered on that, even though we're losing a little bit of money on the cogs or whatever. And then you take it up and say, okay, now we're going to go for a 1.3 or a 1.5 or whatever and see how it goes. And again, if you can get that, then you've now, without even doing any additional work, really, right? You're already making the content. You're already building the PDP. You're already buying the product. You already made the product. So now you can just sort of see in this risk-free way, do you have this opportunity to really scale it? So maybe after you release it, we'll have to do a follow-up episode to see if we can make that work.
So if our AOV was going to be 50, you would just set that bid cap at 50 and load in all the new creative.
Probably on launch. Probably on launch, I would do something like that. It just depends on how much risk you're willing to take financially and where your cash is at and how much you want Meta to be a part of the strategy. But again, I think this is more mass market. For I wouldn't do that. For Zali, I think, and for this product in particular, you have this advantage, Sarah, right away, which is that the product is high margin.
Yeah.
The second deck of cards, right, is high margin. And so so after you put all the time and effort into developing the product, now you've got this opportunity to potentially scale it really, really well and get it in front of people. And that's what Meta is just magical for. So I think that could be really good. Okay, let's actually jump over to, let me pause on that really fast. High margin in Meta ads is a cheat code. And so, there are all kinds of brands that are doing well that you don't realize that the reason they're doing well is not because they're any better at it than anybody else, but because there's something about the product and its economics that are just better than make it better, quote unquote. They just make it easier for using paid as a lever for growing the business really fast, and or something about the TAM or something like that. In this case, you've got maybe some of those things. You've got again, I'll reference back to the episode that you haven't heard yet, but that people may have now gotten to at the time that they're listening to or watching this, which is just like, you've got a higher margin product. Who knows what the LTV is going to be, but there's decent TAM. That's a good case for Meta to be something that can be a really valuable thing for this product. So, okay, influencer. So here's actually what I think I'm really curious about. People a lot of times think about influencer as a mechanism for cool, basically, like how to be cool for people, and that's probably valuable. I think for you, the really interesting question is, can you get people? Okay, so this is not a part of the internet that I delve into much, so I'm going to ask you to correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
But there's not a lot of this on baseball Twitter, so that's my corner of the hobby internet. Okay,
we all have our corners.
Yeah, we certainly do. But my sense is that, you mentioned Pinterest earlier. I'm actually going to talk with my cousin next week, who is starting to build like a digital product business around like interior design inspiration that she's doing. And so she feels like exactly, I've thought of her a lot when we've talked about this. Like,
I'll send her a deck
for somebody. Okay, great. She'll definitely do that. I will. So like for somebody like that, what I would want to see is that people who are doing that and actually letting people into their process are making videos showing how they are using the deck in their process. That feels to me like the place where this could work. And what I would be doing is especially because the product, again, is high margin at this point, I would be thinking pretty aggressively, if I was you, about a seeding strategy where anybody's content that makes sense for this. And again, you mentioned outfits. Like, I think that's another really interesting idea here, that like you would go to people, anybody who's doing something where they're showing their design decisions in relation to color. And I would say, I think I can help you, and I think I can make this better. Can I send you this? And for free, hands down, this is a concept that goes back a couple layers, but the idea of giving palms down, right? If you give somebody something palms up, you're asking for something in return. We're saying you're giving palms down. I'm just going to send this to you and do that. And then you want people to actually be using it and actually be showing it in their process. That's my vision for how this would have the largest potential impact. And then from there, if they do that, you can start creating partnerships with them, getting that content, putting it in your ad account, etc. But this is the way I think this becomes a really big thing and a really big business, is that you end up getting people to use it, get the content. So they're posting about it organically. You're getting the content. You're doing that, and then you're probably creating your own organic how-to content as well, right? So you're generating a YouTube channel or TikTok or whatever it is to do to create a bunch more volume like that. Okay, again, I'll pause. Tell me what you think about that.
I love it. I mean, how many people would you suggest that we reach out to, like in that launch phase, to try to get the scale that we are looking for? I will give away as many of these products as I can. So it's not about the budget of the product. It's more about.
So what is the limiting factor then?
The staff time to like reach out to people, which that doesn't, or not even reaching out doesn't take that long, but the research of who it is. So I'm curious if you'd have a target of how many we should do and like how many per month or things like that.
Yeah. So I think what you've hit here is the operational challenge of influencer outreach at scale. And it really is an operational challenge first and foremost. And I will tell you exactly what I think my answer is to this. And that is an overseas employee who does this all the time. You can make this very cheap for you. Find somebody who is super excited about, interested in your brand, and whose whole job it is to take care of this. Because there's actually another couple of operational processes too, which is like, once the person's interested, then you have to get their address, and then you have to send it to them, and then you have to follow up with them to see how they like it, and then you have to monitor the content. It's like a bunch of work. And my own, or this could be an intern's job if somebody like loves your brands and wants to do this. But when I've seen this done effectively, including when agencies do this for people, what they are almost all doing is finding an overseas employee And I'm not saying exploit them. Like pay them a fair wage, but a fair wage is a lower wage than it would be to do the same amount of work here. And so you would find that person and you would get them involved and begin to give them a profile of what they're looking for. Find somebody who is smart and motivated and excited about it, and who can begin to handle that outreach. And tell them, like, our hope is to give away X number of these per month. That's your target, is to do that with qualified people, and then to monitor the posts afterwards. And as you monitor the posts afterwards, we can then use those in a bunch of different places, including our social and our ad account, etc. But you will get good stuff from people who are doing that. So that's probably the way I would handle this, is as that. I think you could do that in a way that was like, even if it's a part-time person overseas, something like that, you could do that in a way that was like really budget friendly for you, that did this at scale and could actually develop an organizational skill set around this that could really, really matter. So yeah, that's what I think of this. How does that hit you?
It's an interesting idea, right? So right now we have the person, Anna, who's managing our social media and also does a lot of other things at our company. She's incredible. She's doing influencer outreach. She's the person who I want to have doing that for now. I think it's also about building relationships and, for the company. And like, she manages all of our organic social strategy. And so I think there's a lot of value in that happening in-house, and like those relationships being really native to our internal team. So that's how I want to keep it for now. And she is doing influencer outreach and does have time. I just mean that's not her full-time job. So yeah, I hear you on that strategy, but I'm curious. Also, I want to, I don't want to add more OpEx expenses related to this right now. So I want to use the staffing that we have. And I'm curious within that, like if you have a sense of, for launch, you want to have 100 or 1,000, or is that just like totally arbitrary?
As many as you can. I mean, I think it's pretty arbitrary. I think the question is how you're going to get value out of the content, because I think the posts themselves are going to get a little bit of value. There's like a longer term game of, and this is why I would think about this as not just a launch strategy. But I do think influencers is an important part of this. Again, I think you want to have people using this stuff and showing how they're using it in their content and in the stuff they're creating. And I also think that like there's affiliate and some of those things could really work. You might even target a sub community first or something like that to say like, we really want to get in with the crocheters, or I don't know, whatever, whatever group it is first, where you stay a little more targeted, so you don't go quite so broad, because then you'll end up multiplying your sort of touch points with the same people, which could probably help. But this is why I think I think what I might do is have Anna manage that person at some point. And maybe the way I would start is to have Anna start this process for you. And if you see real traction with it, I mean, if you run into a brick wall and nobody cares and nobody's interested, then you have a different problem to solve, and you don't want to have to reduce OpEx because of the same thing. I think instead, if you see real traction and scalability for this, this is where I would, that's where I would maybe bring in somebody that Anna manages, and that person handles the outreach and those kinds of things. But then as the relationship comes in, first of all, I would think of that person as part of your team, actually. Sure. I'm not, and so that can be part of it. I understand your point though. And maybe at some point Anna takes over the relationship, or if that person is really fully part of the team, they can manage it as well. But I think the question is, how are you going to get value out of this though? And my answer to that would be probably in the ad account over time is the way you pour rocket fuel on the value for it. And so this is where, again, like the manual bid strategy combined with the margin, combined with the content you're going to get is really key. So my friends at Kinship, the influencer marketing agency, this is like how they build things for a lot of brands, is they just get mass amounts of influencer content by doing mass outreach. And then they just shove all that stuff into the ad account with cost caps or bid caps. I think they're cost cap people. Sometimes they run bid caps. I think I'm more bid cap guy, but I don't care that much. Like, as long as you're running manual bids to scale it, like you then allow the machine to promote the best content, and by best, I mean the stuff that resonates the most, generates sales for your business from those influencers. And it becomes a way to multiply that. If you start doing that and it starts to work and you start to get to a $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 spend on that, that's where I would then take that next step and say, okay, Anna, you need to actually multiply the outreach here and keep that going and go really, really big. Because again, this is partly just my vision for the product, but I think you could get this into a lot of people's hands. And
I hope
so
so.
I think with that kind of upside, right, means that you have to think about scalable process to really push this really, really hard. And if this becomes a 10, 15, $20 million business, if Zali does, which I think is totally doable, then you have to start to think a little bit beyond the initial thing. So I think you're right. Like, keep it in Anna's hands at first, get her to do that. I wouldn't, and maybe you give her a number just because it can be helpful as a way to manage people, to give them some kind of accountability to something. But I might give her like an outreach number and say, like, these are the number of people we want. These are the communities we really want to target first and foremost. And then from there, that's where you think about scalability over the longer term. So how about that as an adjustment to what I said?
Yeah. I mean, if we get to the point where we are seeing so much success that we need to like multiply that, that's an interesting strategy to think about. And I really hope we get to that point where we can like get that flywheel and get that meta spending.
Yeah.
I really believe in the potential of this product and of all the products we're making at Zali and at Gist, and I want to be able to get them into a wider audience in a way that I can afford. So
yeah. And again, there's short-term, long-term here. I think this is where like meta is so powerful, is that like if you have a high margin product and you can hit on this, it's just like scalable fast. And so like, again, you could just imagine like I said, a $50,000 a month spend or something like that coming fairly quickly on this product, because you've got mass market potential and you've got margin. So that's not crazy to me that you could generate that really, really quickly and have a positive returning thing. Then that money that you make off of that begins to fuel the ability to scale it more. And probably the next place I would go from there is to think more about you guys developing the organic content. And maybe you have influencers doing it for you, for your channels, but you are showing, okay, here is how I'm doing this with, again, crochet, weaving. Here's how I'm doing it with my outfit. Here's how I'm doing it with DIY. Here's how I'm doing it with home projects, whatever. And you now are doing, your content strategy becomes, okay, come with me while I make X. And in the process, you're always showing, okay, I'm picking out my colors. Here's how I'm using the cards to pick out my colors. In this case, I want to do complementary colors. And so there you go. Here, I want to do triadic colors for this one, whatever. So if you, and then you're showing people how they do it. And now for any product like this, I think what people have to be able to do is see how it's going to fit into their process and into their life. And so you are going to show them over and over again how to do that. And at the same time, generate organic views in the process. That's, I think, the way this takes it to another level, and maybe even integrates with other products you're making and all that kind of stuff. Make really good content for people who are going to really like it. And I think that's going to be a no-brainer for you guys. You know these people well,
Yeah, Anna, who I mentioned earlier, has lots of organic social ideas in that realm that she's working on building out content for. And I really want to put that into Meta too. So is it really as simple as just putting it into the bid cap ads and like?
I think it is
going. Yeah.
Honest to God, I think it is. Like, and this is the thing. This is like people. I think sometimes people don't understand the magic of this, and I sometimes am astounded that they don't. Like, the idea that anybody fights me on manual bids, and not you, Sarah, like, but because I think you're coming at it fresher, but like, it's just insane. Like, if I tell you there's this machine that makes it so that you don't spend money that's unprofitable for you, but you do spend money as quickly and aggressively as you want when it's making you money.
Well, I mean, the theory of it is perfect. That's like the holy grail. What would you looked at our Meta account a little bit? For the existing products, like, would you just keep trying the current way? We tried both. I actually can't remember the terminology of the non-bid cap, but anyway, the one where you can lose lots of money, auto bids. And we,
I like your term better though.
The highest ROAS. Again, like, I am so passionate about and believe in our products. I think we're just not kind of like hitting the right messaging to hit the right customer. I don't think that this is a product issue, but we have like our highest ROAS has been I think a 1.3 or 1.4, and then started to tank again. Would you just keep trying to make new kind of creative and put it into those bid cap campaigns that we're spending zero, and just see if like eventually it would spend on something? Or does Facebook kind of already think? Do
you mind if I pull it up?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Okay, great. All right.
And this is relevant to this product because I would like to just start with bid caps, because I did not have success this other way in terms of profitability.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, okay, so a couple things I would do right away.
Okay.
So I've just got all your ads all time. You've spent 30 grand. You've made 15 on click, 16 with view conversions as well. Okay, so you're
Yeah.
at about a 0.5 ROAS.
Yeah.
That's going to feel bad, but it's not as bad as it looks, and I'll tell you why in a second. The first thing I would say is, um, uh, view conversions should probably go away. You should just go 7-day click only. And you need to probably think about, maybe you just target like a 1-to-1 on 7-day click. I have already set up, I think, let's see, yep, the AGFG dashboard here. AOV. Okay, so you're running like a $76 AOV on these products. It changes all over the place. When you set your caps, they need to be set relative to AOV. And so, right, so a 1-to-1 on $76 is different than a 1-to-1 on $134. This is a very small sample set because it's purchased. There's only 6 purchases here, so who knows what the sort of realistic one for each thing is. But like, maybe a simple way to do this for the new product would be to set it for a 1-to-1 on 7-day click. So if you, again, like let's say you think it's going to be a $50 AOV with your digital content as well, you'll probably lose a little bit of money on that. But over time, from day 7 to day 28, there'd be delayed purchase value, right? Does that concept make sense to you?
Yes, it does. Yes.
Okay, great, cool. So, so that there'll be some increase over more time. Let's see what that is so far for you. This is in the weeds a little bit. We'll look at click only here. And you've got some uptick. So from day 1 to day 7, you've got 178 to 189 purchases, and then you've got another 11 purchases from there, like another 5% lift, basically, something like that. So yeah, not a really big lift from day 1 to day 28, but that's okay. You've got some there. So yeah, so you maybe don't want to go quite a 1-to-1. Maybe you do a 1.2 or something on 7-day click. And if you want to do this the real spray and pray method, which I think is not a bad idea at all, you just start shoving all of this content into the account at like a number that you really believe is actually profitable. And if it doesn't spend, it doesn't spend. That's fine. And you just accept that. You just say, like, we're not going to try and get spend under target. We're just going to start spending above target, and that's it. If it doesn't spend, it doesn't spend.
But do you keep spending money on creating creative if it's literally not spending? Like,
yeah, I would take no spend at all as a pretty strong signal that you're not close. And so this is another distinction that I would make from some people. Some people really like the idea of getting spend because then they can iterate off of what the results are. And I think I always reference this, but I think there are some people who probably have a skill set around doing that, and they've got a real method for doing that in a way that makes sense, and that's reasonable to me. I think most of us don't. Most of us don't have a real way of evaluating that information effectively and turning it into iterations in a way that's really good. If I see an ad not spending at all, I just am not going to go try and I'm not going to try and tweak my way into when I'm going to try something completely different, because I want if I want a range of outputs, I need a range of inputs. And so the farther the output is away from what I need, then the bigger of a change to the input that I want, right? Does that make sense?
It all makes sense in theory. Does Facebook think now, though, that I don't make profitable ads?
No.
Yeah, I mean, I know Facebook isn't thinking, but yeah.
Yeah, so this is another thing. I think that Facebook is really good at reading engagement signals on ads. I think it's better than most people think. That basically within a few scrolls of people looking over your ad, I think it's getting some signal right away. And I think within 100 impressions, I think it has more signal than people realize. This represents a level of confidence in the machine learning that most people don't have, that I have. And so that's why I would do that. And here's the bigger point, though, Sarah. Like, what I would say is, you actually have something. Why knit with Zali? This video, you're actually not very far away at this point. What kind of ROAS do you think you need to be profitable?
At least a 1.5.
Yeah. Okay. So you're not there, but you're at like a 0.93 here with the most spend of anything you got, and I think that's really interesting. And Meta has done a good job. It looks like, let's see in this ad set. Yeah, I mean, it's doing exactly what you want to do, right? It's promoting your best performing ads to the top. Maybe this one is
it's basically that,
and then it's smaller.
I think it was using the long form explainer as like a lower in the funnel, and then together those were converting. I mean, I had these on until we went from ROASs of like 1.3 down to like 0.6 or whatever, and our CPMs doubled for the same ads over the period of 2 weeks, and I was like, I put in a bunch of new ads and nothing changed. And I was like, okay, I don't.
That's pretty frustrating. Yeah. And it could just be reaching different people. It's hard to say quickly. But yeah, no, I think I think that's what I would do. I think you have some signs of like not of reasonable life here, of being not that far away. And I think I would begin to keep playing with this. Now, again, I'm thinking here more of the new product than the stuff that you already have here, where you probably, yeah, you could probably win on a pretty low ROAS, or at least get your money back and and keep playing the game, right? And so, as far as like the money that goes into the creative, what I would say is get your phone out.
Yeah.
Reduce the money that goes into the creative. Like, take an image, a screenshot, and put like an Instagram style caption over it, and do that 5 different times so each caption's different, and go. Get out your Post-it notes. I mean, you got creators. Create something cool that says something like "learn color with this." I don't know. Like, and do it in a way that you guys should have an easier time, I think, than others, of like sort of grabbing attention with visually interesting stuff. And like I said, the Post-it note is like a stupid idea, but it's like a very cheap, simple way to just like get your phone out and try it. And this is where the influencer content comes in, right? What I would say is the same thing, like, launch your manual bids, put in influencer content in there, and see if you can make it work. Because if it can, then that can really scale. Even still, what I would be thinking about longer term is how I also create an organic content engine on this. Now, that I think is the thing that actually takes a bunch more time and money, and that's part of the challenge for doing this, is that like it tends to have higher fixed costs basically associated with producing it over time, and so you need to clear a certain threshold and have a sort of a timeline to generating a return on it that's a little different than Meta. Typically you could sort of scale winners really, really fast. Organic content requires time to build up your subscribers, and requires time to build up your followers, and requires time to, unless you are like have the viral on command skill set, then that's the reason why I would put it second. But I do think your product lends very well to that, and I think you can be native to sub communities in a way that would lend very well to that. Subcultures, yeah.
Yeah. I hope so.
Any thoughts?
I'm excited about this. It's been helpful to hear your ideas and your different strategies and your hope for our Meta account as well. So I mean, I'm going to make a lot of new ads and just do the bid caps from the start, which is not how I launched with these kits from the start, and try that way, and also work on the retention part and get in front of a lot of influencers.
And again, that's what I'm really thinking about here. For some product releases, for a larger brand with larger audience control, I might think about this differently. I think for you, I'm really thinking about creating audience with this product in a way that is, demand generation, not just demand capture with your existing audience. So I think you've got a good strategy to create a really good moment with your existing audience. I'll be really curious to see how they respond to it. Have you seeded it like to them at all yet?
Not the actual product, because it's still in manufacturing, but we've been talking to people about it, and they are excited. I think it's going to be a hit with our current audience for sure. So
your team internally feels the same way. People are excited about it.
Yeah.
So to recap, let's just do a quick recap here, and then I'll just give you space if there's any other questions you want to answer. So use it to build your SMS list within on launch. Be comfortable sending a good amount of email. Give people some kind of early access benefit to doing that, and then email a lot, especially that first week of launch. Repeat the playbook when you get to the full launch. Do the same with organic content. Run some ads at a very high margin with the gist people, especially. And obviously, Zali, that list is going to be pretty small so far, so you probably have to wait a little bit there. But that's where you're starting for there. As you also go, Anna is going to take over continuing influencer outreach. We're going to probably give her, I think. I wanted to ask you about this. Is there a subculture, a sub community of some kind that you are going to start with specifically before you go super mass audience? Besides Weavers, which you already have a list, right?
Yeah. We had been planning to kind of go a bunch of places at once. Do you think it's better to start with one place and then grow from there?
I don't know. I think it's more cost effective is sometimes the deal. Like, and you can multiply your value by hitting the same group of people and becoming native to one space before you try and go truly mass market. I always think back to my Kalo example for this, because when we did CrossFit with Kalo, which I mentioned earlier, the truth is there are lots of people for whom a Kalo ring made sense. Some of them for safety reasons. If you're working with metal objects at work all the time or something like that, you just didn't want to wear a metal ring. Like there's like all kinds of people who have that kind of component. You know, surfers are not going to wear a metal wedding ring, but might want to wear a wedding ring around. Like, you know, like there's just like all kinds of things like that you could think of. But CrossFit made sense for us because it was a relatively closed community with its own influencer set, its own events. Like I said, all these things that kind of made it so that people access the community in these ways where we could show up in all the places those people were. I mean, we were sending banners to gyms, like, and just saying, like, here's a cool banner to put in your gym with a famous CrossFit athlete, and also it's a Kalo banner, you know, and people loved it and they thought it was awesome. And so
that's a compelling argument for, yeah.
If there's something like that, if you can be in all the places where somebody already is, and that customer is really super core, and CrossFit also worked because there was a real sort of need for it. Like, you can't really do serious weightlifting with a metal wedding ring on. And yet I think a lot of people, specifically in a gym setting, want to make it known that they are married. And so like there is a real kind of, it fit really well with the lifestyle in a lot of different ways. So I would think about that for you. I would think, is there a way for you to, and maybe for Anna's outreach efforts, you know, for you to do these? Are there events that are events of a certain subculture that you can show up at and come with whatever your products are, but especially with this color thing, and walk around to everybody there and just hand out cards to people who are important at those? Like, I just, and I don't know these spaces the way that you do, but if there is some community that looks like that, then it's really good. CrossFit also worked because the community itself lended to that. Like I said, it had its own internal group of influencers, its own internal group of events, its own charities, its own, all these things that made sense for us to do that. And there may be something like that for you as well, to be trying to give back in certain ways. And some of these places will even have their own retailers that you can set up relationships with at certain times. And so yeah, that's probably the one thing I think about. When you have a smaller budget, you can make a larger impact in a smaller space, and then from there it can spread out. Or you just create a bunch of value there and then use the money to that to fund your next one or something like that. So, and that was, I would say, the mistake at Kalo, actually, as we started to go out from there and try to get bigger. And we went into like 4 different places. We tried to do sort of Pacific Northwest type outdoorsy folks, you know, like rock climber, that kind of thing. And at the same time, think like hunter, outdoor. Those communities don't get along. And so then like trying to be native to both of those is a snake. And then we put some money into surfing, and we did, you know, and it was like, oh, we should have gone instead to one group and said, we're going to go here next, and this is going to be the next place we're going to be, and repeat the playbook a little bit more. So that would be one way you could do it. If you're thinking longer timeline build, you could do that at the same time and put it into your ad account and see if it works, right? Like, it just, we were doing that to a Kalo, right? It's and so, yeah, so I would say I've seen it work really well for people to do that. You have this power, a superpower of knowing these spaces and these customers really well. And I would say if there's a way for you to think about, like, man, we know exactly how to be native to these people, we are these people, that's really valuable.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very lucky that everybody on our team is our people. We are all makers.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think part of what I'm excited about with our influencer outreach is just genuinely to see who likes the product and uses it. And I think that might indicate like more where to go, and who finds it easy to make content about it that is relevant to their audiences, right? Because there's one thing of like, you use it, and there's another thing of, oh, this is interesting enough and easy enough for me to film that I want to show people. So I think that's right. I think it has broad application, but there may be some group that particularly responds to it. And I think part of the thing though is that like you create that particular response too, right? So it's like some people will particularly respond, and so if you try and go really hard and you just keep running into a brick wall, like I said, then that probably tells you something about it. But at the same time, you may be able to sort of make yourself core to the space, even if they we'll see. Okay, so from there, broader product outreach, we're gonna go think about influencer outreach, seeding. It's another advantage of being a product that has pretty good margin, is that you can send it out to people and it doesn't break the bank. You know, think about being a furniture company; it gets a lot harder, right? Yeah. So the seeding a lot, and then think about taking all the content that you're creating, manual bids, put it in the ad account,
see what happens, and maybe we'll follow up on that and see how it goes.
Okay, I would love to do that. I'll keep you posted. Thank you.
Okay.
This was great.
Yeah,
I really
Sarah,
appreciate it.
Good. Yeah, thanks. I had a great time doing this. Thanks for inviting me into it. It's really cool what you're making. I appreciate any opportunity to get a place in somebody's brain for something that they're putting 2 years of life into. It's a real commitment, so I appreciate it. Yeah.
Thanks for coming in, and thanks for all the content you create that helps business owners.
Yeah. I'm so glad to do that. Should people follow up with you somewhere, Sarah? ZollieMakes.com. Go buy some of these when they come out.
ZollieMakes.com. If you're interested in Pallet Scout, you can see us there. You can reach me if you want to chat about anything at Sarah with an H at the end at gistyarn.com, GISTYARN.com. And yeah, I love meeting with other folks in our industry and learning from what we're up to. So reach out.
Did you first come across me in ECF? Or
I think
maybe
so.
Elsewhere? Yeah.
And then your podcast. I loved your podcast with Nasrin, and yeah.
We're gonna do a follow up. Probably by the time this releases,
I want to listen.
It'll be out. So I've been working with Nasrin for a while. She's great, and so we've got some good stuff happening there. So,
she's someone who uses color incredibly well in her products.
Yeah, you like her. Yeah. Her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. She would be great to send some to, actually, and just see what she thinks about it.
I'll reach out and see if she wants a deck. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll connect you. No problem. She would probably love to do that. She's in New York, too. Nice and close to you. All right. Okay. Cool. Great. Sarah, thanks so much again. I appreciate it. And talk to you later.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
If you like that episode, you will also love my other Opening the Books episodes. You can find links to those in the show notes. I think that will be really helpful to you. Everything, any resource, anything like that I mentioned here is all available to you just in the show notes for free. Go check that out. And don't forget to go check out both of my sponsors for this episode, which is my friends at More Staffing. Virtual assistants can be helpful, but virtual professionals can change your business. Go to morenow.co/AF to get started with them today. And Billy, BILY.ai, upgraded 100% server-side tracking for your meta ads. We're just past the point where you should not be having that anymore. You need to have upgraded server-side tracking in your meta ads account. Go to billy.ai to get started with them today. Don't forget to subscribe. You're already watching this. Subscribe wherever you're watching or listening to this show. Thanks as always for being a part of it. You can also reach out to me at podcast@ajfgrowth.com if you would like to do an Opening the Books episode with me in the future. I would love to coach you through something in your business. As long as you're willing to share with transparency what's going on in the business, I will do it. And so podcast@ajfgrowth.com if you're interested in seeing if I'm a fit for that, and we can figure that out together. You can see everything I'm doing at ajfgrowth.com or follow me on Twitter at Andrew J. Ferris. Thanks as always for watching, for listening. Talk to you next time.